I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around with another man's wife. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Threw my boss out the window and got fired for my last job.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. Standing in for Ash, that would be me. Welcome back, Commander Cody. Glad
Can
you're
I
here.
stand in for you then? Is that how this works?
No, it's all about ratings.
I'm over here in the corner still.
Then who's going to stand in for you? Junior, and then the show.
Well, we have
goes
the
to
mayor.
Bob.
The mayor can stand in for me.
The mayor has plenty to do. The mayor will be here. Very excited to have our mayor, Dwayne Crocker, in studio this morning. He's going to come in a few minutes. We what I like is I think I told him like 7:20 whenever you want to get here, and I like it because he's here early, and he's got lots to talk about.
First guest ever that was here early.
Yeah,
we appreciate him.
Most drag up. The Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Feed. Every time I go down there, I'm amazed. The Deerland Feed's been there for over 50 years doing what they do, and the family is just they're super nice folks, and they do recognize. And by the way, we welcome you. If you would like to advertise with Wade and Carter, give us a call. Jackie Parsons tells me all the time, hey, it's unbelievable. You guys mentioned, Balin, and we sell a bunch of it. You guys mentioned the fertilizer, and we sell a bunch of it. So we're glad to be a part of their program. It's 65 degrees in Victoria under mostly cloudy skies, heading to a high today of 86. I would say that we have crept into fall, right?
We're creeping in for sure.
Okay, because it's nice in the mornings and it's sunny in the afternoons, but not hot, not badly hot. It's not that bad. Let's spitball a few things before I bring the mayor in. I want to give him all the time that he's willing to give us. He is an attorney. He'll probably bill the program by the hour. Any portion of an hour is an hour. You know how that works, Scotty? Like
yes, sir.
If you call Dwayne for 1 minute, it counts as 15 minutes.
As it should.
As it should. I mean, it's a quarter of an hour. He has to engage his thought process.
That's how I bill you.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, I did get a call from those credit people the other day, and I'm sorry we haven't paid you.
Yeah.
We're going to work on that. I've got a handful of things to share with you. Governor Abbott has an opponent. Apparently there's a crowded Democrat side thinking of trying to run for governor. The lady that popped up is named Gina Hinojosa, and she's a 5-term Democrat from Austin. She grew up in the Valley, went to UT, stayed in Austin. 5-term Democrat. This is exactly who you want as mayor. Mayor, I'm sorry, this is exactly who you want as governor. I never wanted to be a politician. I was just an angry mom. But I've seen firsthand how Governor Abbott's rich donors run Texas at the expense of our schools, our communities, and working families. So she's an anti-voucher. There you have her in a nutshell. That's where that comes from. Good luck reversing that. That's something we're talking about. That leads into the mayor, the idea that you make decisions now and they affect things later down the road. So I don't think on a scale of 1 to 10, Gina Hinojosa, about a 1. She's got no chance to be governor. In fact, I'm just going to delete. There you go. She's gone. She has no chance to be governor.
If we're just talking about people that couldn't be governor, I have other suggestions to make.
There are lots of folks who can't be governor,
Yeah.
and nobody's going to beat Wheels. I mean, Governor Abbott, he's not going to get beat for governor. It's just too much name recognition. Texas does too well economically. He does those great public service deals where, I don't know, Cody, if you've ever seen the software that allows you to compress. You ever seen this, Mayor, the software, like you do a public service spot and the guy can edit it so he takes out your breath and it compresses everything. It's amazing how
That's what we do for a living over here in the corner.
Well, but you can talk for, say, 45 seconds, and then right there, boom, they would just take that out. And then it's you can talk for 45 seconds and it goes on like for 30 seconds because you take out all the gaps.
Right.
Well, it's funny because Governor Abbott will make the most rudimentary, basic public statement, and you can tell the whole thing is just spliced together. Texans always enter the call. I'm like, what are you doing? You on a respirator? Are you on an iron lung over there? When you talk to him, he's not like that.
Not at all.
No. Very nice man, by the way. Told me he didn't like you.
Well, most people don't, so it works out fine.
Yeah, it works out fine. So here's what I'm going to do. I think instead of, we'll get to some of the news later if the mayor runs out of things to say. For those of you that have watched the city council meeting, he can go on. So we're going to get the mayor to come in. Mayor, you know, at this point, without any more pomp and circumstance, let's see where the applause is. Unencumbered. We're still laughing. Okay, so that's the wrong camera. How about right there? Boom, look at there. That's you. There's your camera.
Perfect.
There's your microphone. And
Good morning, guys.
with some sincerity, really, thank you, Mayor Dwayne Crocker. Thank you for joining us this morning. You and I have become friends, I think, over the last couple of years. We were acquaintances before. You're an attorney here by trade, highly respected. You're a good Texas Aggie. You know, we adore your family, and you're in friendly confines here. And we just want to visit about what's going on. There's some upcoming items that are going to be voted upon by the public. And I really just kind of begin maybe for a moment with kind of just a state of the city. How do you feel things are going? Where do you feel like we are? And then let's get into some proposition talk.
Sure, no problem.
Take a
first,
moment.
First, let me say, make sure and tell Ash that I waited till he was gone before I, showed up.
Well, he asked all the tough questions. You know how he is.
No, thanks for having me on. So, just your question about state of the city, I feel good about where the city is and the direction we're headed. I'm excited about the community center project. Was really glad that the voters saw that as an opportunity that we needed to grab while we could.
How's that coming? I mean,
It's coming well. So we have met again with some of our stakeholders, specifically the livestock show. They had some great suggestions about, hey, we like your design, we like what you're doing, but maybe let's tweak this here and there. Let's move some things around, open up a little space for some other like show barns and
the
and that sort of thing.
practicality of the program.
Absolutely. And so we're going to make some adjustments just kind of on the layout. And we're trying to figure out, okay, so what does that do from a design standpoint? What does that do from our cost standpoint? How much of that can we implement and do? So we're in the design process right now. And part of that process is, like I said, engaging with these stakeholders. So I think we're on a good path on it. I think we're going to end up with a great facility for the community. And I'm excited about it.
Well, I applaud you for that because it's too easy to say, well, we've got a design firm and here's what they gave us and this is what we're going to build. I think it's smart to get, like you say, stakeholders, the people that actually utilize the structure, and they say, well, hey, wait, it'd be great if we had a way to get the cattle out of the building over here away from the chickens. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tell you I understand all the specifics of what they
Absolutely.
need. But when they tell me, hey, we have to do X, Y, and Z, I believe them. They've been doing it for years and years. And that was always part of the plan, was to go back, re-engage and say, okay, now that we know it's a reality, let's get down to brass tacks about what does this look like. We've also moved forward. We've hired our owner's rep, which is important. We did that as part of the public safety headquarters project, and that owner's rep has saved us substantial amounts of money just from the design phase all the way through the end of construction. And so we're following that same model again on this project, and I think we got a good rep and a good product coming out from this.
Well, I give you an attaboy under the idea that it takes a certain amount of humility to not feel like you have to know everything about everything, to be able to be the guy that facilitates communication and then helps implement the best program. I mean, I think that applies to everything you do, whether it's coordinating first responder services or dealing with Jesus with the city manager or your input say on a new police chief or whatever, dealing with water facilities, who would have ever thought? Here you are, nice guy, you're on the council, things cruise along pretty good. You come in as mayor. I think, if you'll recall, I called you and said, I really want you to do this. And you were like, I don't know. I'm a really busy person. And I knew you wouldn't do it unless you were committed to putting in all the time that it requires. So if I remember correctly, you said, well, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to pray about it. I'll decide how much I can really commit to it. And now here you are, you're stuck. So given that you're stuck, who would have ever thought that, like, for example, you'd have to deal with a water problem?
Yes,
I
was not familiar with the concept of nitrification a
right.
few months ago.
And nor
now
should
I
you
know
be.
a lot about it, more than I ever wanted to. I
Right,
promise.
absolutely. Well, we applaud you for that and the way that things have gone. I think there was some unnecessary blame thrown around. I remember people screaming that you and the entire council should fire Jesus Garza and then resign. Well, that's going to make it better. We can just boil water forever and sleep in teepees, you know?
I hear you.
Is that an option?
No, it's certainly not an
oh,
option.
oh.
Well,
Not an
I
option.
think we embarked on a better option with the water committee. And just, if you let me give a quick update on
Sure,
that.
please.
You know, there's been some changes implemented. We had a meeting here a while back, kind of give an update on what we're doing. We've made some really positive changes on processes and procedures, which, by the way, I think will bleed over to some of the other utility departments. It's kind of one of those, hey, if we're going through and looking at this one, let's look at all of them and see if we can update everything. We've had some personnel changes. We've had some additional training for our folks through TCEQ that they have really benefited from. I felt good about. We brought in a consultant to just mostly to help with the operating procedures. And again, it goes down to our procedures weren't bad. Okay. You can always make them better. And at the end of the day, the training is, look, when this happens, okay, when X happens, we have to do Y because this is what's in the process. That's what happened, kind of where we got let down last time was in terms of the processes were in place. They just weren't followed. I think we're on a good path there. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited about it.
I'll give you I know you had to be out of town, but I'll give you a big attaboy for how well Tejas Fest came off. I know that was a long time planning. I know that was something that you guys were intimately involved in. And as somebody who has fostered and put on an event at that, what I call the new pavilion, I don't know what you would call it, but
Right.
the downtown,
It has a name.
what's it called?
De Leon Plaza.
The George R. Brown Convention Center.
No, this is nicer than that place is.
So I wanted you just the feedback to be, I think people had a good time. I think the ingress and egress was great. I think there was plenty of parking. The new lot adjacent right here was full. I think folks had a really good time, and it was I know that it's because it is a free party, because the city puts it on. I know there's always pressure from groups to say, well, if we didn't do that, we could spend that money on sandwiches, and I applaud you for every now and then saying, hey, the city should come together as a group and enjoy each other's company. And it is like a city reunion. And I thought it was very well attended. I didn't see anything unseemly. It just was a well done event. So hats off to the city for that.
Well, thanks for that. And, I'll have to say staff and Joel over at Convention Visitors Bureau did a fantastic job all around.
Joel had that hard hat on, Cody, that has the two beer holders and he had the
See?
straws going
I
in.
like it.
It looked like a scuba mask kind of, and you ever done you see like bubbles go back up through the tube? Not really, but it was a great time. It was a great time.
Glad you
So-
enjoyed it.
Let's get on to some serious business. We have a couple of propositions coming up on this coming November, coming up.
November 4th. Yeah.
Just take a second. Tell us what you know about them, how they came to be,
Sure.
and just educate us on what's going on.
Gotcha. So there's two propositions, and these are coming from the Victoria Firefighters Association. You have Prop A and Prop B. Some may ask, okay, well, how'd these get on the ballot? These were not something that the city has placed on the ballot. They're there because the firefighters went through the petition process that's in the local government code. There's two sections, I believe it's 143 and 174, if I'm not mistaken, that address these propositions. And so the firefighters went out, got the requisite number of signatures on the petition. And once they bring that to council, then council says, okay, you met state law, and so we will put it on the ballot. So let's talk about what they are. So Prop A, basically, Prop A would establish what's called a civil service system. Okay. What that means is that it would take away from existing leadership, the chief, the council, the executive leadership team. It would basically take away a lot of discretion, and it would take away processes that we have in place and substitute in for that a process that's put in place by a 3-member commission. Okay?
Is it as just give you what I heard? Like, I've been really, since we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I've really been kind of asking and reading and trying to be conversant about what's going on. Stop me if my statement is incorrect, if you need to clarify.
Sure.
I've been told that, let's say that a job position is going to post within the fire department, and you have to have been a fireman, you have to be a licensed, whatever that requires, and you have to have been with the department 5 years. And you, so me and Cody both put our names onto the list. Cody is affable. People like working with him. He's a leader. He's the best chef at the vacation station. He's the best guy. I'm just another guy. But we both appear equal to the 3-person committee. And then the committee develops a test. I take the test. I happen to score a 96. Cody only scores a 95. The intangibles don't matter because I scored highest on the test. I'm the guy that gets the promotion.
That's correct. That's correct. That's
With
the way that
no
system works.
consideration for the objectivity issues.
Yeah. So the way that system works is that this commission, which by the way is just appointed, okay, it's an appointed commission. So we're creating mid-level bureaucracy within the
Right.
city.
But it's not going to cost any tax dollars.
I could address that as
Yes,
well.
sir.
So-
Yes, sir.
But basically, this commission comes up with the rules of hiring, the rules of discipline, the rules of recruitment, qualification.
No longer the chief.
No longer the chief.
Okay, interesting.
And it goes to pay, it goes to benefits. This committee, okay, is basically in charge of all things related to firefighters is from a personnel standpoint. They also put in place a test, okay, as you alluded to, for the various positions. And this committee is charged with coming up with that test. So we got 3 people who are appointed from within the community who may or may not have any clue what they're doing there. Hopefully
Right.
they have some idea. But the thing that concerns me the most about it is that they're not accountable to anyone. They don't report to council. They don't report to the city manager. They are an autonomous body that's out there on their own. If council doesn't like what they're doing, doesn't matter. They actually absolutely have the ability under statute to do what they need to do. Now, the thing about that is they also don't have any money, nor do they have any way to get any money because they're not a taxing entity. So all of the costs that are associated with this program, because they're going to have administrative support, because
Space,
open meetings, right? And so
office space.
somebody's got to keep the records. Somebody's got to keep track of all the civil service hours and that sort of thing, because they'll appoint a director. Generally, it's the HR of the city. So there's going to be administrative costs without a doubt to the city as a result of this commission. The other side is that they're going to need consultants, right? I mean, if you go out and hire subject matter experts when you're putting things together like
Mhm.
testing and you're updating tests and doing that. The other side is they're going to need legal counsel. Well, guess who's paying for that? You and me as taxpayers.
Taxpayers.
100%. 100%. And so once they put this test in place or whatever position, if you score the highest on the test, then you have to be offered that job. That's by state law. No discretion.
That
for the
just
fire
seems
chief.
dumb to me. It seems contra to Texas being a right to work state. It seems contra. It just an at will employee. It just seems odd that I know that there's really no getting around the idea that this is all union infiltration is what it is to come in and get their hands into what we're doing. And I can't help but think that to a degree, the proponents of this within the department are thinking, wait, they're telling me I might get an extra $1,500 a year out of this. You're going to make more money, which by the way, costs tax dollars, because still going to be tax dollars that pay these guys. Am I right to think that a lot of the stuff that they're talking about implementing is already available to the city and it's also already in the works?
Yeah. So let me tell you, a lot of it's already in place. So here's going back, if you'll remember, not this past budget cycle, the one before. Okay. So there were conversations that were had with executive leadership team in terms of, look, go figure out a way. We need to pay people more. Okay. Our first responders need more money. Our people across the board, quite frankly,
I knew you agreed with that as
market.
well.
And so what came out of that was a recommendation to council at that budget cycle that basically had a couple of different components to it. One was a small bump increase. The other one was a larger increase, but it had to do with, but it was achieved by a reduction in the retirement catch-up payment. Because basically the way the retirement system works is that if I go to work for the fire department when I'm 20 years old and I retire when I'm 60 years old, whatever my salary is when I'm 60, the city goes back and catches up all the way back from the time that I was 20, as if I was making that salary on day one, whatever my last day was. And we do it at 100% right now. The idea, the concept that was pitched was, well, we'll just reduce that catch-up payment and use those funds, that'll free up funds and we'll pay, or we'll increase salaries. Well, council rejected that. And we said, look, we don't want to mess with these guys' retirements. We want to find a different way. And so what we did at that point was we went ahead and adopted the smaller increase.
Mm-hmm.
I then put in place a compensation committee of council. And I said, look, we need a subcommittee, and I tasked those folks, and it was Mr. De La Garza, Ms. Butler, and Mr. Lofgren. I said, look, you guys go figure out a way to do this. There's got to be a way that we can pay our people more. We need to get them up to market. Okay. We need to go up to market. Now you adjust for factors such as, cost of living.
Right. Doesn't cost as much to live here as some places.
Everybody always wants to talk about Sugar Land, which I don't get. I
Right.
mean, Victoria's not Sugar Land. It's apples and oranges. But, so you do cost of living adjustments. And basically what came out of that compensation committee was a historic pay package for our employees. In that pay package, as of October 1, it included a $2.9 million bump for firefighters, strictly for firefighters. That amount was just for firefighters. It raised entry level all the way up to seasoned veterans, some as much as 25%. I mean, so, we heard, we saw, and we responded to that and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We've always prioritized first responders, both police department and fire department. And as an example, they are the only city employees that have a STEP program that's built into their compensation, that every 2 years they're built in to get a bump. That doesn't exist in anywhere else in the city, just for those first responders.
Here I've got Will Franklin, Chief Deputy Will Franklin says, will the 3-person commission be involved in disciplinary action or terminations? And a listener, Monica Patterson Crocker, says, yes, they address disciplinary issues.
I like to see Monica's paying attention.
There you
Yeah.
go. She's recording this for your grandchildren to watch.
Yeah.
That moment you were stuck on Wade and Carter. So it seems to me then, as a layperson on the outside looking in, you had two things happening simultaneously. As the city was evaluating and finding a way to increase compensation to basically confirm, hey, we heard you, we're working on your behalf.
Right.
The union was also saying, hey, you guys are getting screwed. Let's find a way to make something happen here.
Well,
I mean, they had to be happening at the same time.
So here's what I go back to, Brent. When I ran for District 3, however many years ago that was, seems like forever ago. Basically I made a comment at some forum somewhere, and I said, you know what? Every time we get a chance to govern ourselves, we should take it. Right. Basically, what this results, what the end result, and particularly on the collective bargaining part, which by the way is Prop B.
Let's get to that in a
which is
second as
collective
well.
bargaining. But
Yes, sir.
particularly on that, what you're going to see is if the firefighters choose, we want this association, State Firefighters Association, which think maybe backing a lot of this, quite frankly, from
Right.
a financial standpoint. If we want them, then they're going to come in and be our mouthpiece. They're going to be our negotiators. So we're going to, you've seen these. In fact, there was a picture from the gentleman that came and gave us a presentation, a subject matter expert from our October 8th meeting, which I encourage everyone to go
Yeah,
on the
it's
website and
online.
take a look
You
at.
can
Yeah.
go to the City of Victoria website, and you can hear this guy who basically gives you an unbiased, here's what it is, here's what you're getting into.
Right.
And if you're not careful, it sounds biased because you're like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah. So what happens in that situation? He showed a picture. You've got a big conference table. You got people on either side, but basically these out of town associations come in and say, okay, we're going to collective bargain now. You often get unintended consequences from that sort of
No
thing.
doubt.
I mean, let's face it. When you're going to start bargaining, you get the low hanging fruit, right? So what's the low hanging fruit in that scenario? You're looking at pay, you're looking at benefits, you're looking at that sort of thing. But you eventually run out of things to talk about.
Well, yeah. So Will Franklin confirms, he says, my professional beginnings were in a county where public safety was represented by a union. It was near impossible to discipline or fire a subpar employee.
Yep.
Lots of dead weight is the result.
And
Very interesting.
And the discipline part, it comes in, obviously based on job performance and that sort of thing, but it makes it extremely difficult. And under those scenarios that I'm talking about, if at any time the commission does something and the firefighter doesn't like it, or their reps don't like it, then they have the ability to appeal that.
Right.
Okay. And so then you go to an arbitrator. Okay. Well, now we're again, not only are we talking about people from outside of Victoria coming in and
Bureaucracy.
negotiating, we're talking about an arbitrator.
Expense.
And whatever the arbitrator says, huge expense. Whatever the arbitrator says is basically what everybody's going to be stuck with. Love it, leave it, hate it, right? That is what it is. And so, the concept that this is not in any way related to finances is just, it's fanciful.
I did get the mail out.
100%.
Victorians are stunned and like deer in the headlights when we start getting mail outs. We're tired of mail outs.
I think we have fatigue in that area.
And I got one the other day, and it just, that it's not true when the mail out emphasizes in a different color and in a different font, all at no expense to you, no new taxes. I'm like, that's a lie. Ashley Strobel gives you the connection there, folks. If you want to, in the comments, there is a link to the victoriatx.gov/TV15.
Do we want to put that on the news page?
I think that would be great.
Okay.
If you go to the Wade and Carter page, Mayor, I know that I've seen that you stalk our website. If you go to wadeandcarter.com, there is a new section called News. And when you click on it, for example, you would find out that starting tonight, Thursday, Friday, and then culminating on Saturday at the community center, the South Texas Bourbon and Cigar and Bourbon Festival is going on. A big event for Victoria, 70 vendors coming in, tickets still available, and the link is on wadeandcarter.com, under the news section. So far, I'm against Proposition A, and I want to talk about Proposition B. Talk to me about collective bargaining for people that can't strike.
So, going back to, and we've already jumped into it a little bit, is essentially the local firefighters will pick an association. Okay. If a majority can agree on association, that association then becomes their negotiation. They sit down with the city. Well, meaning no disrespect to our city attorney's office, which does a fantastic job. We don't have unions down here. So collective bargaining is something that is just outside of the realm of what the city has done historically.
Is it as simple as a spokesperson comes on behalf of the entire department and says to the city, we need a 5% across the board raise this year? And you say, well, we've been looking at our budget and we were looking at more like 2.5%, 3%. And they go, fine, we're all calling in sick on Tuesday. I mean, isn't that essentially what we're trying to avoid here?
It can be, Brent. I mean, it could be that simple. Absolutely. Now, would it be? I would hope that, we would all be there in good faith. If we're forced into that scenario, we would all be there in good faith.
But they're getting paid by the rank and file to negotiate on their behalf, another expense. and the only way they can prove their worth is to get results.
Absolutely.
So they're going to
Absolutely.
be a hammer more than a partner.
So I'll go back to my comment about unintended consequences. And so, this was, again, just kind of like I said about nitrification, something I wasn't really, familiar with. This type of civil service arrangement and collective bargaining and how it impacts other cities I wasn't familiar with. I've become more familiar with it. And, again, once they get past the low-hanging fruit, okay, but it's still there because, by the way, once this system goes in by state law, it cannot be taken back.
Now that blows my mind. So let's say that I'm a fireman. I'm a newly hired fireman, and I'm 10 years in. I'm like, I don't think we need this. We've got a great city. Wayne Crocker's now 74 years old. He's still mayor, and he understands us. And all of a sudden, I don't want to keep paying these guys $50 a paycheck to negotiate for me. I think that I'm a leader now. I'm an assistant chief, and I think I can visit with the city on behalf of my rank and file guys. But now you can't change it.
So the collective bargaining part, actually, you can put out a petition, okay, and have that removed. I will tell you that in the history of the state of Texas, there's never been a city that's done.
That's right.
The civil service part, the part that deals with the 3-member commission, the bureaucracy, all that kind of thing, that by state law, because we're a city over 50,000, can never go away. Even if everyone says this was a terrible mistake, which personal, my opinion is that it would be, even if everyone decides, what, this was a mistake 10 years from now, we are stuck with what we have. But let me get back to unintended consequences. I just want to give you an example. So, most or the larger cities tend to have this. Okay. I ran across something and confirmed this. And it's my understanding that one of the things that was collectively bargained by the police officers in San Antonio is that the taxpayers fund a fund that pays their attorney's fees if they get a divorce. That is another condition of employment that would fall under collective bargaining. And I'm not saying that would happen here, but I'm using that as an example of, I think we go way past what you and I normally think about in terms of,
sir.
When I'm sitting down for a job, I want to talk about how much am I getting paid? What are my benefits? I'm not talking about, okay, whatever the perks can I get on the taxpayer dime, but that's essentially the course that these kind of things often run.
Well, see, our audience is so astute and also very well read. And Greg Garcia says, look, I've been hiring people for 19 years. A resume is just something on a piece of paper. I love to sit down, look somebody in the eye and visit with them and get to know them, which, by the way, is just very Texan.
Yeah.
Jennifer Rayburn says, Greg Garcia, 100%. The new Prop A formation prohibits any unique / individual interview options. Every single person just takes the exact same test. One of the rules is they just tell the employees not to ever discuss the test since it's the same. That's just not Texan. I mean, we like to meet each other on the street and shake hands and how are you doing? And then you say, I'd like to work with that guy. I mean, I don't understand this. I don't understand where is our local fire department leadership on board with this? Or was there just enough rank and file? Was it the underlings that did this petition?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I will tell you, those guys reached out to me probably about a year ago, the Firefighters Association. And it was a phone call and I can't remember the gentleman's name. And he said, hey, we want to sit down and talk to you. And I said, man, I'd love to. I want to hear what you guys, are kind of all about, what direction you're headed, but I also want to talk about, kind of what I see, the direction I'm headed. And he said, great, I'll get back to you. And to this day, I've never heard back from him. So I have not sat down with them because they just basically ghosted me.
Right.
And so I don't know where the groundswell was from their side. I can speculate, but I don't like to do that. So
that's
but to your point on the test, I'll go back to when I was running for mayor, I was in a forum and I was asked a question about, I think this one had to do with like DEI hires or something like that. And I made a comment then, and it just so happened to touch on the fire department. I said, look, I believe in a meritocracy. Okay, I believe that you put people in a position who are the best qualified, who are going to do the best job for that position. If I'm stuck in a burning building, who I want coming for me is who is most likely to get me out. I don't care what their rank is. I don't care what their skin color is. I don't care what sex is.
That's right.
I want the person who's most likely to get me out. by the same token, as it relates to this, who's coming for me? I don't care what they scored on the test. I want them to get me out of that building.
Amen.
You
No,
know,
that's right.
So I want the person who's most likely to do that to pull that off. And they may be a terrible test taker, and I don't care.
That's 100% right. And I think I get, you know, I mean, you've listened to the show enough to know we're huge first responder supporters here at the program. 100% support the first responders, but I'm also I've always been anti-union. I think the time has come and gone. You know, our fire department is certainly not a sweatshop. They're not making Nikes for $6 a week over there. It's except for the fact, and I realize that it's state law and it's the same everywhere, except for the fact that they have to go out on all these meaningless EMS calls, which I just think is the dumbest thing ever. But I understand that there's logic behind it. Except for that, they don't have a bad gig. A fireman is not a bad gig. And by the way, and what I mean by that is, yes, you can end up in harm's way. By the way, it's okay with me if my home is going to collapse on you. I don't need a hero. I don't need you to go in there and try to put out my kitchen fire. That's why we have insurance. I never want a fireman to be in harm's way and die.
Shameless
Call
self-plug, by the
GSM
way?
Insurance today. Call Brent. No, yeah. Call Brent. Save a fireman, call Brent. No, but I just find myself being like, it's not a bad gig,
Well,
you know, and I'm not saying that they don't deserve to be paid more, and neither is the city of Victoria saying that.
let me
Please.
clarify that. And I want to be 100% clear on this. I am not anti-firefighter at all. I am not anti-first responder at all. In fact, I was endorsed by the Firefighter Association here when I ran for mayor. I mean, I get it. I understand. Nobody on council is anti-firefighter.
That was almost Trumpian, Cody. Cody was always like, they love me. The firemen love me. Their wives love me. They all do. They're all scared of Joe Biden. Joe, I'm going to tell you, Joe, terrible, sniffing them. Not me. I'm okay. Anyway, I'm sorry.
But nobody on council is anti-firefighter. I mean,
I know that for a
you can
fact.
see it
No.
from the raises we've given. You can see it from the responsiveness. We can see it from the communications that we've had. Look, we want to move the ball forward as it relates to our first responders and pay, you know.
Right.
In fact, you know, and there was a lot of concerns that have been voiced out there, and there's things in the community about, oh, well, we can't keep anybody here and that sort of thing. And you're right. We have had people that have left the department, but I'm going to tell you, both in the police department and the fire department, that's not a Victoria thing. That's a nationwide.
That's a nationwide
Do a little
thing.
homework on that. Start looking around about what happens. And that is a nationwide thing. But I will tell you right now, apparently what we're doing isn't so bad. We have one opening. My understanding is we have one opening in the fire department.
Fantastic.
So, you know, that tells me that what we're doing can't be that bad,
That's right.
you know.
No, I mean, I've been encouraged by the cooperative effort. I mean, like, I do know for a fact, I have visited with all of the city council members. They are all very pro LEO. We work and we toil in a very cohesive environment. You know, I spend a lot of time with Sheriff Marr, and just a couple of weeks ago when the gentleman was apprehended out near Telfner, you know, he marveled at the seamless cooperation between the city and his SO and the Department of Homeland Security folks, ICE people. All he said, man, we had helicopters, we had dogs, we had horses. I mean, he goes, what a wonderful cooperative effort. Our community is kind of like a little island that we should cherish and take care of. And I
Listen,
just don't believe that bringing a union in for people. I asked Ash the other day, you know, he's Canadian, and we come at things from different sides. And I said, what's one of the number one tools of collective bargaining? First thing, strike, the ability to strike. I go, firemen can't strike.
Right.
So why do you want to, as a fireman, why do you want to give up any of your autonomy, any of your rights, any of your ability? I know your door is open. It's right next door. Somebody wants to come talk to the mayor, come talk to the mayor.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't know what. I have to feel like this is an outside influence that's blowing smoke, no pun intended, at these guys and saying, hey, we're going to help you.
Well, look, and here's what it is, plain and simple. I mean, let's just talk about it from a basic human principle, right? We all want to make more money, right? I mean,
Right.
everybody wants to make more money. Heck, I want to make more money, you know,
Right.
but I also wish that I could charge what they charge in downtown Houston at those big fancy law firms, right? But I know that the market is such that I can't do that here in Victoria. Now, if I wanted to do that, I have the ability, I have the option in the United States of America, in the great state of Texas, that I can move my practice to Houston and I can charge. those
There
kind
you
of
go.
numbers.
And you can pay
But-
5 times as much for rent, and you can pay You
Right.
can drive 3 hours to work, and
So, but my point is, look, I get it. These guys want to make more money. Their wives want them to make more money. Their kids want to make more money. I totally understand, and I don't begrudge them for that at all. What I will say is that as the mayor, I feel like I have a responsibility that if I see something that's happening within the city that I think is going to be bad for our city and bad for our taxpayers, then I feel like I have an obligation to speak up, no matter
Amen.
how much I may like who's putting it forward, which I do, right?
right.
And I just see both of these propositions as being a problematic issue for Victoria that will never go away once it's put in place.
Chief Deputy Will Franklin says, here's a real world example of how this will cost taxpayers. An employee is put on paid administrative leave during a disciplinary action. The disciplinary process will be tied up in union mediation for months instead of what should be weeks. Taxpayers are paying an employee to stay home on administrative leave in lieu of performing their duties. And I don't think, nor have I ever heard a local firefighter say, I got shafted at work. The chief, ruined my life. That it's not like that you've got a disgruntled rank and file. I don't feel that. I've never heard that it's like, oh, well, the chief's a tyrant. So, we've got to do something different. So if that's not the case, now I'm against both Proposition A and Proposition B.
Well, and my only comment would be you should have had Will on the show because obviously.
Well,
Yeah,
and
this
you know
guy-
what, Chief Franklin, please, sir, plan to come in. We love to talk to you about this in the upcoming weeks, folks. This is right around the corner.
Yeah.
This is 2 weeks from now.
Well, early voting starts Monday.
Please vote against Prop A and Prop B. I'm just telling you, we typically tell you vote your conscience, vote your common sense. Let's vote our common sense on this one and get rid of this.
Well, and 100%, and people can vote with their emotions, right? Again, nobody's against firefighters. Nobody's
That's right.
against, first responders.
Voting
There are people, and
against
they
it
take care of
doesn't
us.
mean you don't like firemen.
That's exactly right. What I encourage everyone is to go educate yourself on what these issues look like and what they can actually do and what they don't do. And, to me, the answer is pretty clear, but obviously everybody needs to make up their own mind. But please make an educated vote.
You're gonna get more mail outs, folks. You're gonna get more mail outs in the days ahead. I
I
got
love
one.
mail outs.
Yeah, well, you get coupons with your wife's name on them, and you try to use them because you're a criminal. I don't know if you heard that story. He got his baby needs a certain type of Infamil, and the other day before he got here at like 6, he had already gone to HEB with the Infamil. If you buy X amount, you get $30 off on this formula, and the card, because it probably came via her pediatrician, was made out to Cody's wife. The coupon, Cody's address, same last name. HEB wouldn't let him use the coupon. Said, "Oh, it's not you." He goes, "What am I going to do? Make crack cocaine with the Infamil? Am I going to resell it out of the back of my car?" Anyway, so we had some fun with that the other day.
Gotcha.
But Cody now has entered into a collective bargaining agreement, and
Yeah.
people are going to go and argue on his behalf. I've always felt that in this day and age, you can take your grievances straight to the top as an individual or as a group of individuals, a focus group, if you will. You don't need to pay a union to do it for you.
And I don't disagree with that. I go back to, I think council supports the firefighters. They
Amen.
Support the police department, which, by the way, I have to believe just, if this were to pass, I think it's entirely reasonable and likely that the police department will be right behind them.
Right.
terms
Well,
of asking
they'll
for these
certainly be
exact same
getting hammered by collective bargaining organizations to join us. You're
Right.
getting
Right.
the firemen are going to get all the money. Y'all are going to get screwed.
Right, which would be a whole new commission, then we
Now you
we'd
got
start that
6
process
volunteers.
all over again.
Oh,
Additional expenses, all that kind of thing. But look, let me say this on the mail outs. The mail outs are the U.S. Postal Service delivered soundbite, right? The whole idea of a mail out is to peak your emotion in a short period of time without giving you time to really think about it. and do the
Amen.
research.
That's right.
Voters need to do the research on the issues, throw the mail out in the trash. I don't care which side it comes from. It's designed to try to influence you in a soundbite rather than give you time to do some critical thinking about the issue.
100%.
And that's what voters need to do.
Callie Frommy adds, if both propositions pass, is it fair to say that the city could get locked into some expenses that, even if unaffordable, like during a COVID situation or a terrible economic downturn, we're still on the hook for those? Meaning that even if we have an unexpectedly unattainable budget, the VPD has to get their pound of flesh, and other aspects of our city will just have to suffer. Is that a fair? Yeah, I mean, if we're not going to raise taxes, Mayor, some services have to be minimized.
That's 100%. That's what it looks like. And either somebody in the city is going to get paid less because the firefighters said we want more, or we're going to have to cut services. And we're, again, the state legislature has capped us on how much we can raise taxes if we chose to. And I think that cap's going to come down. And I understand why, that process has been abused by some of the larger cities, so that's what triggered that. But I think they're, if I remember correctly, and don't hold this to me.
Oh, we're going to hold you to it, man. We're going to hold you to it.
If I remember correctly, there can be some exceptions in cases of, say, for example, natural disasters and things of that nature. But it's not like it just goes away. Okay?
Right.
And so, to answer Callie's question most directly, is we are on the hook for it, hell or high water. That's what's going to happen.
Monica says, please go vote. Polls open Monday. Micah Patton, school board president, says, vote early and vote often. He's a Democrat. Yep. Will Franklin, who knows firsthand, says Victoria has a premier fire department. The passage of these propositions will do nothing but promote mediocrity and poor performance. He's a meritocracy guy. And I agree. It seems like the union is there to protect the weakest link, not find the true leaders.
So in the presentation, if anybody tunes into the one we got on October 8th, and again, I encourage people to do that. In the presentation, the subject matter expert, when talking about these things, said, look, at the end of the day, cities hate this, unions love this.
And that right there, as a Texans, we get Greg Abbott to call and talk about Texans don't like unions. That's true. We don't. And that's what this is. There's no getting around it. The propositions A and B are there for you to decide if our fire department that can't strike by law is allowed to unionize. That's what we're doing. We're asking you to vote against the unionization, the collective bargaining of our fire department.
It certainly has a lot of the indicia of a union without being a traditional union that does have the ability to strike and things of that nature.
I think the illusion is that folks may believe that the entire fire department is for this, and I just don't think that's the case.
I can't answer that.
You're such an attorney. Keep it deep inside. Cody, ask the mayor for anything that involves like an opinion.
All I want to know is how do we fix the formula problem at HEB? That's all I want to. That's all I care about. I get the mayor's office on this?
What I like about
I try to avoid uninformed opinions.
Hey, you know what? That's why you don't do radio. It's hard to do an hour without an uninformed opinion. You have to just spew it out there. But I will share that I am critical. I do watch. I'm thankful. I have more often than you can recall thanked God that the voters of this community were smart enough to not elect me. I mean that with not even with humility. I mean it almost with arrogance. I'm glad you didn't elect me because I would not put up with y'all's crap. And I want to tell you that I am very, very, I'm proud of you. I know you to be a good man. I love your family. And I just really appreciate that. I did. I don't mind telling people. We had a conversation. You did not jump into this role for anything ego-based. I think it's fair to say you went into this role somewhat reluctantly.
That's probably.
I think you were, because you had sat on the dais. You had seen what Jeff went through. And by the way, I think Jeff Balknight was an exemplary mayor. I do. I think he was a good mayor. and I've seen even more of a can-do attitude out of you and this particular city council. It's a living entity. It morphs, it changes, and I know that you were hesitant's not the right word. You were cautious. You educated yourself on the pros and cons, and in spite of the cons, you took the step, and I respect you for it. I appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate that. And let me just say, I mean, Victoria is extremely lucky to have the council that we have in terms of just the professionalism that's on that council, in terms of people that care,
right?
People that are there for the right reason. That doesn't happen everywhere. You get single issue folks, you get folks that only care about, well, all I care about is my district. You get folks that maybe have never even seen a budget that get elected to council.
Right.
We are extremely fortunate to have the council that we have in terms of just people that care about our community, are there for the right reason, and they're smart people
who have made a payroll,
that pay attention, and they are professional counsel. And folks, that does not happen everywhere, and we should thank our lucky stars every single day.
You got any? Is there any breaking news? We have any big that you know of, things that VEDC is going to be mad at you about? Is there anything you say? Well, I've heard that.
Just see.
I mean, I want you to violate some confidences here. I want you to go, well, I'm not supposed to talk about this, but
I think the biggest breaking news was actually related to my real job. Okay. As I'm general counsel for the Port of Victoria. The port made an announcement this week about a potential new project out there that's an energy project. That would be a $1 billion investment.
Wow.
100 very good, high-paying jobs, tech-type jobs.
These are the portable generators? Is that what the
no, this one is actually SMRs, small modular reactors that would be a power generation facility. This is kind of next level technology. They're actually using Gen 4 versus Gen 5 technology, but they're using it in a new way that is just really incredible.
It's really kind of the civilization of some military technology, if I remember correctly, that, the military's done this for years, and we're like, really? They do that? Yeah, they do that.
Yeah. And they do it very well, and they do it very effectively, and they do it very safely and efficiently.
John Paul Hull refers to it as blue energy. I want to just to give you an idea, like the level of the listener we have here. Junior Sample says, I have a question, or I want a lawyer's response. Beans or no beans in chili?
As a Texas guy, I say no beans.
Amen. And here's my deal. It's chili, right? Or it's chili with beans.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Landau top or no Landau top. That doesn't mean that a car has a Landau top unless you add it.
So look at that. Here I am ostracizing the bean crowd.
Yeah. And I will tell you that in the same breath that you're not a politician, I think you have to be cognizant that right now you might have lost a voter that just said, what? Blasphemy, no beans.
Well, I would have lost my dad. My dad was a bean guy in Chile, I mean, it was a house divided, so to speak.
So it's really weird to me. You say dad, then I think about mine. And like my dad used to take cornbread and he would put it in buttermilk. And I'm like, that's just so gross, and he would eat that. But dad liked like pinto beans. He would put sweet pickle relish in it.
Well, there you go.
He liked that, but he liked his chili traditional. So,
without a doubt.
Well, we believe it or not, we have blown through 45 minutes.
Well, there we go.
You
can get on the more important thing.
Well, there is nothing more important, and I mean this. The response and the feedback over here is so intense, and there's so much of it that I would like to encourage you, and I know these folks would as well, to try to set aside some time to do this at least once a quarter. I can tell you again, just observantly, these folks, the people that really matter, they don't watch our local TV news, and you're not on the news much anyway.
No.
And they no longer take the newspaper. The majority of your constituency does not take the local newspaper. And I would just encourage you to spend as much time with us as you can, because mostly because you're a nice guy. I mean, you're informed, you're on top of things, And I think you have great things to share about our community, and it instills pride. By the way, I think, Cody, correct me if I'm wrong. When was the last time we had someone come in here in a coat and tie? Now, the brother will show up in a tie.
Never a coat and a tie.
Never a coat and a tie. At 7 a.m, are you kidding me? And he's cheery. He's in a good mood.
I am what I am, Brent. What do you do?
Did Monica get up this morning and like whip you up some eggs, maybe like a little quiche or something?
I think she waved at me on my way
yeah,
out.
I know the wave she gave you. I'm not on camera. I know the wave she gave you. Yeah, that's that. So that. Well, I'll tell that joke after you leave. I won't do that to you.
Good call.
No, what I'll do is I'll change the camera. So the old man, he had a standing golf game, played every week with his buddies, and fall came around, and his wife was like, I don't want you going every week. You can go a couple times a month, but not every week. And Saturday morning he shows up on time, and his buddies were like, whoa, man, Mayor, how'd you pull that off? He said, I just rolled over and said, golf course or intercourse. And she said, don't forget your sweater. There you have it. So, hey, folks, we have been thrilled today to be joined by our mayor, Dwayne Crocker. And he's a big-time attorney. You can't afford him. Don't call him for legal work.
He's never coming back after that.
He's never coming back. He'll come back.
Not after that.
All he has to do is just walk across the platform here, and he's at his office. We're the closest.
Platform.
It's a little, I don't know. What
Are
do
we
you call
in
it?
the attic now?
We're in the attic. Sir, we really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for coming.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. And
Good to
folks,
see you.
we have a consensus here, vote no on Proposition A and B, and just preserve the ability of our city council and mayor and city manager to promote from within, to raise the pay accordingly, to deal with the merit of our first responders, and to keep the progress that we're already making. We don't need to reinvent the wheel.
I agree.
Yes, sir. Well,
Yep.
thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes. Hey, folks, top of the hour, and we're going to get out of here. And talk to you, Vignano. Bye, folks.
Well, I've been kicked out of my near every ball.